Welcome to English Through Truth, where learning English meets real stories that matter. Today, we reveal the hidden truth about one of science's most brilliant minds, Rosalind Franklin. Brilliant, determined, and robbed of her recognition. This is the story of a woman who discovered the secret of life itself, only to watch others take the credit. Love science or not, her story will inspire you, anger you, and teach you powerful English along the way. From a curious girl with a microscope to the scientist who photographed DNA's structure, this is the tale of genius, betrayal, and stolen glory. Are you ready? Grab your headphones, sit back, and let's dive into this incredible story that will improve your English and keep you hooked till the end.
It all started on July 25, 1920, in London, England. A baby girl was born to Ellis and Muriel Franklin. They named her Rosalind Elsie Franklin. No one knew this little girl would one day unlock one of life's greatest mysteries. As a child, Rosalind was different. She didn't play with dolls like other girls. Instead, she asked questions. Endless questions. Why is the sky blue, Papa? How do plants grow? What makes us alive? Her parents smiled at her curiosity, but her father, Ellis, had traditional views. Girls don't need to worry about science, he would say. You should focus on being a good wife and mother. But Rosalind didn't listen. She was stubborn. I want to understand how things work, she told her mother. At school, Rosalind excelled in everything: mathematics, physics, chemistry. Her teachers said, "Rosalind is exceptional. She has a brilliant mind." At age 15, Rosalind made a bold decision. "I want to be a scientist," she announced at the dinner table. Her father's face turned red. "Science? That's not for women. You'll waste your life." But Rosalind was determined. "I will prove you wrong, Papa." In 1938, Rosalind entered Cambridge University to study chemistry. It was rare for women to attend university back then. Many people looked down on her. "Why is a woman here?" male students whispered. "She should be at home, not in a laboratory." But Rosalind ignored them. She worked harder than everyone else. While others went to parties, she stayed in the lab late at night, conducting experiments. Her professors noticed her dedication. "Miss Franklin, your work is outstanding," one professor said. But even he added, "Though it's a shame you're not a man, you'd go much further." Rosalind felt the sting of those words, but she didn't give up. In 1941, she graduated with honors. She was brilliant, but the world wasn't ready to accept a brilliant woman. After graduation, Rosalind worked on coal and carbon structures during World War II. Her research was so important that it helped develop gas masks to protect soldiers. "Finally, my work matters," she thought. In 1947, Rosalind went to Paris, France, to work at a research laboratory. Paris changed her life. For the first time, she was respected as a scientist. Her colleagues treated her as an equal, not as a woman trying to do a man's job. "In Paris, I am finally free," she wrote to her mother. She mastered a technique called X-ray crystallography, a way to photograph the structure of molecules. This skill would soon make her famous, though she didn't know it yet. In 1951, Rosalind returned to London to work at King's College. She was assigned to study DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, the molecule that carries genetic information in all living things. "If I can photograph DNA structure, I can understand how life works," Rosalind thought excitedly. But King's College was not like Paris. The men there didn't respect her. They didn't want a woman in their laboratory. One scientist, Maurice Wilkins, treated Rosalind terribly. He thought she was his assistant, not his equal. "You should prepare samples for me," he told her coldly. "I am not your assistant," Rosalind replied firmly. "I am a scientist just like you." From that day, the relationship between Rosalind and Maurice was tense. He disliked her confidence and intelligence. Despite the hostility, Rosalind worked tirelessly. Day and night, she took X-ray photographs of DNA. She was meticulous. Every experiment had to be perfect. In 1952, Rosalind captured the most important photograph of her life, Photo 51. This X-ray image clearly showed DNA structure, a double helix, like a twisted ladder. When she saw the image, her heart raced. "This is it! This is the secret of life!" But Rosalind was careful. She wanted to analyze the data thoroughly before publishing her findings. "I must be certain," she told herself. While Rosalind worked quietly in her lab, 3 other scientists were racing to discover DNA's structure: James Watson, Francis Crick, and Maurice Wilkins. Watson and Crick were building models of DNA, but they couldn't figure out its exact shape. They needed evidence that Rosalind had already found. One day, without Rosalind's knowledge or permission, Maurice Wilkins showed Photo 51 to James Watson. Watson's eyes widened. "This is exactly what we needed," he exclaimed. Watson and Crick used Rosalind's photograph and data to complete their DNA model. They never asked her. They never told her. They simply took her work. In 1953, Watson and Crick published their famous paper describing DNA's double helix structure. The scientific world celebrated them as heroes. "Watson and Crick have discovered the secret of life," newspapers shouted. But Rosalind's name was barely mentioned. She had done the crucial work, taken the crucial photograph, but received no credit. When Rosalind found out, she was devastated, but stayed silent. "What can I do?" she thought bitterly. "No one will believe a woman over these famous men." After the DNA betrayal, Rosalind left King's College. She moved to Birkbeck College, where she studied viruses and made important discoveries. "I won't let them stop me," she told her colleagues. "I'll keep doing what I love." And she did. Rosalind published groundbreaking research on the tobacco mosaic virus and the polio virus. Her work was exceptional, and finally, people started to recognize her brilliance. But tragedy was approaching. In 1956, Rosalind began feeling unwell. She had stomach pains and felt exhausted all the time. Doctors discovered she had ovarian cancer. It was serious. "How much time do I have?" Rosalind asked quietly. The doctors looked away. "We don't know." Despite her illness, Rosalind continued working. She refused to give up. "Science is my life. I must continue," she said weakly. On April 16, 1958, Rosalind Franklin died. She was only 37 years old. The world lost a brilliant scientist, but most people didn't even know her name.
4 years after Rosalind's death, in 1962, James Watson, Francis Crick, and Maurice Wilkins received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for discovering DNA's structure. They stood on stage, smiling and accepting the world's highest scientific honor. But Rosalind Franklin's name was not mentioned. The Nobel Prize is not awarded to people who have died, but even in their speeches, Watson, Crick, and Wilkins barely acknowledged Rosalind's crucial contribution. Years later, James Watson wrote a book called The Double Helix. In it, he described Rosalind cruelly, calling her difficult and unattractive. He mocked her personality and dismissed her scientific abilities. When people read Watson's words, they were shocked. How could he treat her this way? They asked. Finally, the truth began to emerge. Scientists and historians investigated and discovered that Rosalind Franklin was the true hero of the DNA story. She took photo 51, the most important evidence, they said. Without her, Watson and Crick would have failed. Today, Rosalind Franklin is finally recognized as one of the greatest scientists in history. Universities, research centers, and buildings are named after her. Her face appears on stamps and in textbooks. But the painful truth remains. During her lifetime, she never received the recognition she deserved.
Rosalind Franklin's story teaches us powerful lessons that go far beyond science. First, never give up on your dreams, no matter what others say. Rosalind's father told her science wasn't for women. Society told her to stay home, but she followed her passion anyway. She became one of the greatest scientists in history because she believed in herself. Second, hard work and dedication always matter. Rosalind worked tirelessly in her laboratory, taking hundreds of X-ray photographs until she captured photo 51. She didn't take shortcuts. She was meticulous and precise. That's why her work was so important. Third, recognize and respect the contributions of others. Watson, Crick, and Wilkins took Rosalind's work without permission or acknowledgement. This was wrong. When we achieve something, we must remember those who helped us get there. We must give credit where credit is due. Fourth, speak up against injustice. Rosalind stayed quiet when her work was stolen, partly because women weren't taken seriously in her time. But today, we can and must speak up when we see unfairness. We must fight for what's right. Finally, your legacy lives on through your work. Although Rosalind died young and didn't receive recognition during her life, her contributions changed the world forever. Today, scientists continue to build on her discoveries. Her legacy inspires millions of people, especially young women who want to pursue science. So remember, be determined like Rosalind. Work hard like Rosalind. Stand up for truth and justice. And never let anyone tell you that you're not good enough. This was the story of Rosalind Franklin, a brilliant scientist whose work was stolen, whose genius was hidden, but whose legacy will never be forgotten. Her story reminds us that history isn't always fair, but the truth always comes out eventually. It teaches us to fight for what we believe in, to respect others' contributions, and to never give up on our dreams. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to English Through Truth for more exciting stories that help you learn English while discovering hidden heroes of history. Remember, behind every great discovery, there may be an unsung hero waiting to be recognized. See you in the next story.